Welcome everyone to today's performance clinic, Why Devs Love Dynatrace, episode 2 on Intelligent Quality Gates. My name is Andy Grabner, and with me, like the last time, Sergio. ¿Cómo estás?
Sergio Hinojosa. Very good, Andy. Thank you. Muy bien. How are you doing today?
Good. Yesterday, Wednesday, the 19th in Austria, bars and restaurants opened again. I really hope that I can soon enjoy a beer, but we just need a little better weather because right now it's just raining all the time. It's not fun.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So we have a lot of content today, and I want to remind everyone, if you're live, please use the Q&A feature and ask the questions. I will moderate. If you watch this on YouTube or Dynatrace University later, because we will upload those, find us. You have our names, you have our Twitter accounts. Just shoot us questions. We're very happy to answer. We really want to make the life of developers easier. You will see a lot about automation today, automated quality gates, automated testing, SLIs, SLOs, really cool stuff. And the best thing of all, Sergio built a code lab for it. So everything what he shows today, you can walk through it on GitHub, and I will share the link in a second. But with that having said, Sergio, I will be quiet for now. I will hand it over to you. If questions come in and they make sense, I will interrupt you. Otherwise, we'll wait until the end to walk through all them. But now over to you, Sergio.
Thank you, Andy. Hi, everyone. As you know, I'm Sergio. So today's episode 2 of Why Devs Love Dynatrace, right? So let's kick it off. This is the agenda of 4 episodes. We already had episode 1. Episode 2 is about intelligent quality gates, right? It's about automating tests, leveling up what we did in episode 1 with synthetic monitoring, then building performance tests and intelligent quality gates, and build a whole environment, right? With the application that we were using, which is Easy Trouble. Before I start, here are the links, because we're not just talking the talk, we're doing the walk. So everything that we're showing, you can redo in your own on-premise or on the cloud, so you can understand and see everything, what is happening behind the scenes, right? So we built up a code lab for you. It's called Dynatrace-perfclinics.github.io. In there, you have episode 1 and already episode 2 live, so you can pretty much just copy paste and do the code lab. All right. So before I start, this is a webinar series. So previously on episode 1, distributed trace analysis, trace diagnostics, what we saw, Andy and myself, we did an introduction, what is Dynatrace, automatic monitoring, the smartscape, how the one agent automatically monitors everything. So we leverage that for developers to get automatic feedback on real time. So the developers can find their own traces, right? We explain all the features for developers. The PurePaths 4, right? What it all contains, not only the trace, but it's also the protocol, the exceptions, the errors, the messaging queues, garbage collection, synchronization, threat ID. So pretty much all this information, and also the diagnostic features, right? Like diagnostic and analysis features. So you can analyze all your threats, memory failures, even do backtrace and understand which SQL, which user could trigger a specific SQL and stuff like that, right? We then built up with Monaco, monitoring as code, an environment where we import in this dashboard for analyzing big environments. We show you how to analyze big environments and understand and find the needle in the haystack, right? Response time, exceptions, errors. We give an introduction on diagnostic tools. Then we play the role of a developer, right? Where we don't want that this happen in your environment, right? That you can, in staging and developer environments, get feedback on real time, right? The better the feedback, the better the software will be. So we play the role, and with Easy Trouble, the application we're using, we tested a REST endpoint. We sent a JSON payload and we validated, right? We created an account twice. So one was okay, the other one failed. And we analyzed all the thread with the PurePath information on the backend, right? We saw the service flow and all this automatically. We understood And we're, as you can see here, like milliseconds, right? We're analyzing traces that are not more than 20 milliseconds, and we even saw the different services and the code that it run through all the services. We navigated with the response time hotspots and understood what happened on the backend and why the second transaction was not successful, because the SQL, the account was already created, right? So now in episode 2, we're gonna level up that, because we as developers, we are lazy. We don't want to do things manually, right? The whole time. So why don't we automate? The idea is to automate the tests that we do in your test environments, right? For this, we can leverage synthetic monitoring. Dynatrace has synthetic monitoring capabilities that you can leverage. You don't even have to, you can even automate synthetic monitoring with Monaco, and that's what we're gonna show today. So a quick introduction. In the environment that we're gonna have, we have, by the way, before, something that I wanted to show, and I'm going really fast, I'm gonna build an environment completely from scratch, right? So for that, I have 2 machines. We already had one in episode 1. I'm gonna build it again, which is easy trouble, right? So this is the machine that I already spin up. In this shell file, I have the tenant and token explained in episode 1. So the only thing that I'm gonna do is run. If I didn't do a copy paste error in the token or the tenant, then it will spin up easy travel and put the one agent in there, right? This is the machine 1. Machine 2, what I'm gonna explain later, but I'm gonna kick off the installation now, is kept in a box, which is a single node developer cluster, where we're gonna have the whole pipeline, the quality gates, kept 10, validating easy trouble for us, right? So in this machine, I already have it set it up with the tenant token and an installation bundle. We created a bundle just for this performance clinic, right? So I run this. This is gonna run on the back end, and that's it. So now I kicked off the installation of the 2 machines. I go back to my slides. So synthetic monitoring is a way that you can automate the evaluation and validation of key functionalities in your environment, right? So in this episode, or in this webinar, we're gonna have 2 monitors. One is a REST monitor, something that you can use for testing REST endpoints, Kubernetes services, ingresses. In this, we're testing the login functionality, right? Easy Travel has different front ends. We're gonna see it later. One front end is based on Angular and communicates via REST, right? So we're doing the evaluation with a login continuously, right? The other is Dynatrace has a full browser capabilities, meaning you can record a test and test the whole booking process. In our environment, we have a travel booking application, right? So for us, it's important that we can book a travel, right? From the beginning all the way to validate credit card, the payment, and everything to the end, right? And this with Dynatrace, we can roll out in different locations. As you can see here, this is the full booking process. We're doing it from 3 different locations, or as many as you want. As a best practice, we recommend at least 3 locations with 5 minutes interval, right? So we're testing the availability and that the business KPIs like the validation, the booking payment, selecting a travel and a journey and all that works, right? So this also can be automated, and we automated it with Monaco. So we're gonna spin up the environment today automatically with the synthetic tests, right? So, but synthetic is very important, but it does not replace load testing. And the problems appear, or let me put it in a different way, where the application is expected the most or is needed the most is under load. You have a Black Friday, you have people trying to book or pay something, or are using the application for the business reason that you have. And it's exactly where we don't want the application to fail, right? This is why performance tests are very important and we should automate it, right? So, and it's really important to understand the limits. All applications have a limit. So having load tests, we should understand how the application scales horizontally and vertically, right? Spin more pods or add more CPU, more memory, so we can optimize and use the resources in a very efficient way, right? And what I have seen in all my years in development, software development, is normally companies add more hardware, and that has never been the solution. Just put more hardware, more CPU, but the software is normally the problem relies in the software. And if it's a thread issue, memory issue, you will not be able to solve it as easy as with throwing hardware, right? This is why automated quality gates with automated performance testing, validation, and release comparison is really so important, right? So we as developers can make sure automatically the every release works. So our software in every pull or pull request or merge is going to be load tested and evaluated automatically, right? This is very important. So how do we build this? We call this intelligent quality gates because it's not only about a quality gate, but it's also, we're calling it intelligent because we're bringing Dynatrace into the mix. We're evaluating with the PurePath and the full stack observability, right? And what we achieve with this is speeding the delivery by over 80% by automating with SLIs and SLOs. SLIs and SLOs stands for service level indicators and objectives, right? Is shifting the SLAs from production all the way in your staging or development environments, okay? So for this, we're using Captain, which is an orchestration. It's an event-driven control plane for cloud automation, right? So on the layer below, we have Dynatrace, which is automatic monitoring all your environments, staging, prod, pre-prod. And on the top, we have your DevOps tools, right? Performance tests as JMeter, NeoLoad, Jenkins, your pipelines, or your remediations, right? Captain is installed in Kubernetes, but you don't need a big cluster. I mean, today we're going to spin up, and we're spinning one of the installation I triggered is a single node Kubernetes cluster, which is based on micro Kubernetes. It can also work in keys or Minikube, right? So since it's event-driven, we have an API where we communicate to Dynatrace and fetch information from Dynatrace, and we communicate and integrate with your tools, right? So it will orchestrate the whole pipeline and delivery for us. In our use case, we're gonna use performance as a service and SLI SLO, which is a use case for where you can automate, or we can automate every pipeline, make the pipeline that you have stronger than it already is, right? So you don't have to cross your fingers and hope that the release work. We define an SLI and SLO, we upload a performance test, and Captain will evaluate and give the information back to the pipeline. Hey, this release good or not good. That's the whole idea, right? So you can up level whatever pipeline you have, because a lot of customers are like, yeah, but it's so far away from me. We don't do this. Hey, it's really easy to add a load test. You can even record it with a browser, upload the Jenkins, the JMX file, the JMeter file, and Captain will do the load test and the evaluation, right? And the monitoring, you know, Dynatrace is really easy. It does everything automatically. The traces, the full stack, everything automatically, right? So this is the whole idea, from bringing manually analyzing quality metrics, which is normally what companies use. They evaluate, and you can have really pretty dashboards, but evaluating manually will never scale. And it's not as efficient and precise as automatic, right? Imagine having all these evaluations and try to compare with a keen eye if something goes wrong, good or bad, but having a quality gate that evaluates SLIs and SLOs based on PurePaths with calculations where it compares the different releases, right? And it can make mathematics calculations and sees the thresholds and the increases or decreases and see, hey, these metrics are good or bad and are gonna pass or not pass my quality gate, right? This is why this is how I picture a software pipeline. Every hole in a pipeline is something that we not cover, right? And there will be a point that it will break, right? And this is why with quality gates, with SLI and SLOs and best practices in load testing, we can build really strong software delivery, right? Is having full stack observability, end-to-end load testing, automatic release comparison, and based on SLIs and SLOs. And by the way, we can shift even business KPIs into the mix. Evaluate, I don't know, in our case will be like the response time for the credit card payment, or booking a journey, right? So this is also another forward about intelligent quality gates, how important I believe it is, or we believe it is, but we're developers, so we're gonna skip all this wording. Here's an explanation of the SLS and SLOs. This is pretty much the quality gates that we have for easy travel, right? So we're validating not only performance metric, but also business KPIs and architectural. For example, you can see in the small words is exceptions, the error counts, database calls, log time, IO time, the PurePaths, thread time, synchronization time, CPU time, right? So we're measuring the time of the CPU, the traces spent on the key transactions, on the login, the search, the journey. Remember, we have this booking travel. So this is the full booking process, doing a login, a search, finding a journey, doing a payment, selecting a credit card, and so on and so forth, right? So, yes. So now let me explain the environment, what we're gonna spin up. This is a very simplified view of software CI/CD environment, right? So you have your developers, they will commit their changes. We have a build server, the build server will build an artifact. You have your unit test coverage, even static code analysis, right? And then you're gonna promote into staging. Normally here companies do some kind of load testing and some manual evaluations, and then they will cross fingers, say like, yeah, can I deliver or not? Because this is the question, can you deliver or not, right? And this is where we want to enhance every pipeline and say, hey, with performance test, SLI and SLOs and automatic monitoring, you can enhance all your pipelines and your software delivery, because the goal is to release with confidence and have always a release that you can that can always be delivered. It doesn't mean that you can deliver in every day or every hour. I mean, we could deliver in Dynatrace every day and every hour, but we don't. We do it every 2 weeks. But we have a branch that is stable and we know that it has been load tested and we could always deliver. That's the goal, right? And this is automated, so let the machines work for you, right? So for a lot of customers that we have been asked, this CodeLab is based on Jenkins, right? Jenkins is still one of the most used pipelines. So we're simulating, since we don't have developers, or you might not, we're just simulating an environment. We're gonna have 2 pipelines. One is a dev scheduler that is just gonna trigger a build, and the other is the build, which is gonna ship the app in staging, right? In our use case, we're gonna use feature flags. So with the REST endpoint, we're gonna activate different patterns that the developers, right, are activating, which is bad code, right? Depending on the time, each hour we're gonna trigger a build, and depending on the time, we're gonna deploy this on the staging, right? In more detail, this is how it looks like. With Monaco, you have seen it in episode 1. In episode 2, we're gonna spin up the synthetic test. So we continuously monitor if the endpoints are available and the browser tests are available, right? We have 2 machines, Easy Travel and Captain in a Box. Captain in a Box is a single node Kubernetes cluster, right? Where automatically with the script that I just ran, is gonna spin up micro Kubernetes, and inside is gonna install Captain, it's gonna install Jenkins, it's gonna install a Git server and the one agent. So we even monitor that with Dynatrace, right? The flow is look like this. We have Jenkins, which is simulating your pipeline or any pipeline, right? We're gonna deploy feature flag, right? In Easy Travel, which is activating this feature, is simulating a commit or a merge. Then we're letting Captain know, hey, I did a deployment, do your job. In here, we have a JMX file that is gonna load a session-based load test. The full booking procedure, we define a test strategy, meaning how many users and how much load. We're gonna do 500 session-based bookings. When this is finished, it's gonna let the Lighthouse service, which is the evaluation service, know, hey, I'm done with the load test, evaluate for me. the Lighthouse service is then gonna ask Dynatrace, because Dynatrace is monitoring everything automatically. You see, we have the one agent sending information. So we're gonna evaluate all the traces, all the end-to-end traces, and see if, and we're gonna evaluate all the traces and see if the SLIs or SLO comply with what we define, right? We're gonna fetch them, and then Captain is gonna let Jenkins know, hey, this build is good or not good, right? All this happens automatically. And by the way, we have a Git server. Why? Because Captain uses GitOps. So the Easy Trouble project is going to be uploaded in Git, so you can see the definitions and everything that is happening. The shipjar file, which is how you define the sequences and how you define your SLIs and SLOs, right? What we're evaluating. So when we run Monaco, this is what we're going to get. So let me just jump back into my shell file, because I'm going to run, I have an empty environment. Let me just show you. So this is an empty environment. And if I did everything correctly, I should see 2 hosts here already. There they are, right? This is the host that we just run. So I can see it's already starting to monitor, okay? So, but I don't have any configuration. I don't have any dashboards, right? So for example, if I click on the dashboard, request attributes, completely empty, or synthetic monitoring is also empty, right? So synthetic, for example, I don't have any synthetic monitors, right? So we can automate, and we want to automate that. So in here there are 2 machines, and here is Monaco, right? So I set the variables as in the CodeLab, and then I run and I deploy. When I run this, automatically it's going to deploy everything for me, right? So let me just show the variables. So just in here, we have a new change. We have the user. By the way, for those that do not know, the user, the way to see it is here. I am admin, right? So I will put admin, put your user so the dashboards are visible for you. Then MIP stands for magic IP, the magic IP for Easy Travel. If my IP is 3.10, then I'm gonna replace the dots by slashes and use NIP.io. With the NIP.io, what we can do is access with subdomains different services. The same also for Kubernetes. We're using the Kubernetes ingress and Istio, where we can access multiple services, right? We're putting the IPs here. Why? Because we're going to have dashboards and synthetic tests using this IP and also linking all the systems. So if I reload this page, because I just ran Monaco, there it is. I have now 2 synthetic tests that are going to be configured. As you see, setting up monitor in Sao Paulo, Frankfurt, and Virginia for the application, right? If I go to the dashboard, now I have 2 dashboards. This you know from episode 1, which is a way that we can understand the traces in big environments and use the managed zones. So we have bank, job, and Easy Travel. And Captain, since we already installed Captain, we can see that Captain created also for us the other managed zones, right? And we can filter all the traces with the managed zones, okay? So we have this dashboard, but there is another dashboard, which is the one we're gonna use in episode 2, 3, and 4, which is this one, right? So this is starting to spin up. When the synthetic monitors start to run, because they're being triggered and we're using our cloud infrastructure, so we can have the REST validation and the full booking process is gonna come here. The browser is gonna come here. And on the left side, we're gonna see also the load test integration. These are the links to the application. If Easy Travel is there, let me see, there it is. So Easy Travel is already finished. If Captain in a Box, let me see, well, that was fast. So Captain in a Box is already up and running, right? So for this, I'm gonna switch back to the slides, because in the slides, I can explain faster and better what we can see here, because there's a lot of data here, right? So once you run Monaco, on the top, we're putting links. It's a simple link, but it's still very efficient way, a very efficient way to access all your services. I use it a lot, and a lot of my customers use them a lot as well. You are linking all your services. From there, I can click on classic, modern, admin are the different REST endpoints, the different services on my Easy Travel staging system, right? Then there is also another link. It's called KIA, stands for Captain in a Box. It's the single node Kubernetes cluster that we're going to use. It has a home page where we have links to the services. In this bundle, Captain in a Box bundle, we are installing Kubernetes, we're installing Captain, we're installing Jenkins and Git, right? So there is a link to the pipelines in Git. By the way, Jenkins is already pre-configured with the pipeline. So after I explain this, I'm gonna trigger the pipeline for you. So we have a continuous pipeline doing the load test, right? So it's already pre-configured. I just need to put the IP on the pipeline. We have a link to the Captain bridge. The Captain bridge is the UI of Captain that shows us the evaluation and the services that we have onboarded. In here, we're just using the quality gate and performance as a service. So we can see in the quality gate the different deployments that we're triggering, right, or evaluating. There is a link to GitOps with Easy Travel project that we have is going to be uploaded to our Git server. We're hosting our own Git server, so you can see all the configurations, and you can even do changes in the configuration on the Git server, right? As you can also notice, the tracking of the load test is done automatically. We can see in the Dynatrace UI, there is a load test via JMeter running, and the name is the test booking of 5 virtual users and 100 loops, 500 session-based load test, right? We can see on the left side, the load test coming, right? And we see with the different colors are the different test steps, the functional test steps, right? So, and this is not hard coded. I'm going to explain how this information is coming to Dynatrace automatically, that we can separate the different test steps, loading the homepage, calculate recommendation, the different, and the response time, the amount of transaction, and if we have exceptions or errors, right? So this is a JMeter test. A lot of you may know this. These are the test steps, right? The same as you can see, 1, 2, 3 login are the ones that have been shown in Dynatrace, right? And in Dynatrace, we have the end-to-end flow of all these test steps. The integration is really easy. In Dynatrace with Monaco, we imported HTTP request attributes, right? So we can identify them because Dynatrace is already capturing. Whether you're doing a load test or not, it's going to capture it. We're just making Dynatrace know, hey, I want to categorize these traces, right? So, and the way to do it is with this pinshell preprocessor. So actually you can copy and paste this preprocessor in your load test so you can have the integration automatically, right? And this preprocessor, sorry, is nothing else than automatically for every run is getting the name of the test and putting it on the header, and that's it. Right. Now, on the right side, you're going to get the overview of the whole system. The request count, 95% of the transaction, if you have errors, failed transaction, and the key services, all your services, right? So all these Easy Travel services are also being evaluated because we're using automated tagging. Remember from episode 1? So all our staging environment is tagged. So we can validate exactly all those services, architecture and traces, right? The infrastructure, sorry, like JVM, CPU, and all that, right? We have links to the, there is one link called Classic Eval. So we are tagging the entry point of the application, right? So now this is the entry point. And if I click in there, there is the ingress gateway from the Classic, right? And in each deployment, we're gonna see automatically from the Jenkins pipeline and Captain, there is a sample so you can see how we integrate the load test. We see in the events, deployment events, which makes even smarter or AI called Davis and understand, hey, I have a feature flag because it not might be in here, we don't have a deployment, we're activating feature flags, right? And we're making it, even with feature flags, Dynatrace smarter and say, hey, we're activating this code change in easy travel. And we're going to do this test strategy, a performance test with 500 session-based bookings. And we have all the links to the different systems in the events. Then we can see the flow of the whole load test, right? And we can start filtering, as in episode 1, by different test steps. Show me the flow of the login, show me the flow of the search, of the journey, so you can see the flow of your architecture. On the right, we have the synthetic test, right? Very important also in staging, not only development, but in staging, to have continuous evaluation of key functionality for REST services or full browser services. By the way, for keeping things simple, we're using, or Monaco is prepared the CodeLabs for public IPs. We can do it also for internal ones, but for having synthetic, we will need to set up an active gate, meaning it's a Dynatrace component, then internally can run the test for you, right? So it is possible. If you want to, if you want to do it, just ping us and we will let you know how to do this. It's not difficult at all. Right? So the data shown here is the information from the different locations and the different tests that we also automated for the REST endpoint and for the full browser evaluation. And on the bottom, we can see the time of the CPU, memory allocation, of the different process that we're load testing, so we can detect runtime problems and we can optimize, do runtime optimizations. Right, let me just check the time. We're good in time, half an hour, perfect. So I'm getting on to the end. So do we have questions, Andy, that I can answer at the moment?
I think we had a couple of questions that I already answered. One was first of all, where are the slides and everything? So I pointed people to the GitHub repository, your CodeLabs. So folks, I've been sending these links in the chat and also on Q&A. Then there was also a question around synthetic. How is that licensed? How is this available? So I answered that the synthetic piece is an offering that is licensed based on our digital experience management solution. Then there was also a question on pipeline integration. I think the question was around Captain. So in general, the quality gate feature that you're showing is just pulling data out of Dynatrace through the metrics API. There's no charge for that. If you do it yourself, if you hand code it, no charge for it. If you use Captain, like Sergio is showing, the open source version of Captain, no charge for it because you run it. It's just making the API calls. Now we are offering a hosted version of these capabilities as part of our cloud automation solution. And I will cover this later on, and this is something that we will also include into our product portfolio. And yeah.
So perfect. So now let's, we're really good in time. I was doing very fast. Is there something that I need to repeat, Andy? Maybe I was going too fast with the slides.
No, I think I mean you did a great job in pushing everything into the CodeLab itself. I think the whole important idea is that what you have built with Captain in a Box is really, as you said, a great way for developers or automation engineers to learn all the individual concepts of automating the monitoring setup, the configuration, especially using, I know you mentioned Monaco a lot of times. I explained what Monaco stands for. It's monitoring as code. This is an open source library of the tools we at Dynatrace internally use to configure all of our Dynatrace instances that we have worldwide, and we have a lot of them out there. So we have open sourced this tool. Everybody can use it. It's a command line tool to configure your dashboards, your management zones, all this stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
And as part of Captain, right? If you use Captain as an automation orchestrator, because this is really what Captain is. Captain allows you to chain together different tasks. We call them automation sequences, and then Captain can execute on them. It can be as simple as just querying data from a data source like Dynatrace and doing the Sli and Slo-based evaluation. It can also include things like first execute a test, or first set up Dynatrace correctly through Monaco, then run some functional tests, then run some performance tests, then do the evaluation. So you can do all of this. So Captain is really an automation engine, a control plane that allows you to automate sequences by chaining together tools without you having to build these integrations, right? I think this is the important piece here.
Yeah, and in our CodeLab, in episode 1, I mean, we're not using Captain with Monaco because in episode 1, we wanted to keep things simple. We only had easy trouble with the one agent, and here is Monaco already part of it, where in step 5, we run for the episode 1, right? In episode 2, which I'm gonna click now, we have also Monaco, where we add the load testing integration, more dashboard, calculated service metrics, right? And we bind the systems. We put the magic IP of Captain and easy travel. So we are adding synthetic test as well. So on this environment, which is totally new, now the load test is not triggered because I just instantiated easy travel. So we have here classic, modern, the different endpoints of my application, right? We have an admin interface and a REST interface where we can activate the feature flags, right? And we have Captain in a box running here, right, which is this one. And we have the Git repository. It's already initiated with the Easy Travel project, right? But it's not fully configured. This is gonna happen in Jenkins, which is what I'm gonna show now. So here is Jenkins running also on Captain in a box. The password is Captain and Captain rocks. It's on the CodeLab. So the first step is install the plugin. This just takes 1 minute or so, or less, a couple of seconds, hopefully, if the demo gods are with me. And everything is explained in the CodeLab, right? Set up the unbreakable pipeline. So we're here. Let's just give it a couple of seconds. In Jenkins, we're using Jenkins as code. So we are initiating with quality gates. So we have, with pipelines, right? These pipelines are for teaching simple evaluations, right? For any kind of service. But we're gonna use these 2 pipelines. The scheduler, remember the other architecture view? Let me make this a bit bigger. The scheduler and the continuous deployment, right? So if I follow the pipeline, so we're gonna create actually a new one. I'm gonna copy, as you can see here, I'm gonna make this bigger. Depending on the time, we're going to activate a problem pattern, right? Which is simulating the different developers, just throwing good and bad code at us, right? So in here, let me just add new item and call devs being devs, right? Something like that. And we say this is a pipeline. In here, we just copy and paste this. Why we copy and paste this? Because we want this to have the default value, so it's always running with the IP of easy travel. This is important. Just without the subdomain, we put it in here, right? Because we're gonna add in the pipeline the subdomain, the rest to activate the feature flag, or classic for load testing classic, right? So I save this and I build. Right. This pipeline called devs being devs is the same as the deployment scheduler, right? But I created it with the script so we have the default value, right? So we don't test this domain that does not exist, right? So if I click in here, you're gonna see that this pipeline triggers the next one, the continuous deployment with parameters, right? So if I go back, you see the number is 15 that it calculates, so it's login problems. Now it's gonna trigger login problems. And at the hour, because it has a cron job, right? At the hour, if I show you the cron job, here is a cron job, every hour is gonna trigger the pipeline. So now we have the whole environment set up, right? It takes you 5 minutes if you have the instances already running, right? So this is gonna, the pipeline, and let me just go back. In here, let me show this in, I like this view we have. So it's gonna initialize Captain, right? So it's going to upload the Slis and Slos defined, and it's going to trigger the sequence. In the shipyard file, which is in GitOps configuration, which is running in your Captain in a box. Here we have per stage branch. So we have only one stage.
Can you zoom in a little bit, Sergio? It's a little small.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. Right. So we have here the staging. Here we have the shipyard file, which is our sequences. So first, in the delivery, we're gonna do a test and an evaluation, right? With the test strategy, full booking 500. There are multiple strategies defined, so you can define multiple strategies and even do multiple tests if you want, which is done here in this configuration. And you can see you can parameterize all this. And this is the load test that I was showing before, right? And everything is in GitOps, right? So everything is revision and you can keep track of all your changes, right? So when we trigger the sequence, then Jenkins, what we're doing is making Jenkins smarter, right? So the deployment that we already have, and we're crossing the fingers, now we don't have to cross the fingers, and this is going to trigger an event in Captain, right? So if I go back and show you my Captain bridge, as you can see, now the data is coming here automatically. And I didn't have to configure any configuration manually. Everything is managed as code. And this is the whole goal, that you as developer, because you are the smart guys, right? And if something breaks, you're gonna be called. So make sure that your software is tested properly so you have more free time for beers and having longer weekends. So as you can see now, the load test is triggered, and this is from my load test, right? If I go to my service, the classic, right? I will see that the events are here, right? So the deployment feature, login problems, has been already deployed with links to all my other systems. Let me make this a bit bigger. Links to the Jenkins pipeline, to the build exactly that is been running at the moment, right? The load test is running.
Sergio,
Yes.
I think I want to echo repeat what you said earlier, because you said we're making Jenkins smarter, right? We're not replacing Jenkins, but we take away the need for our users to extend Jenkins, let's say with their custom scripting or custom integrations. Because what you basically do, you say, I need to automate a certain sequence. I want to do certain tasks after I deploy a new build or switch a feature flag. I want to basically monitor or execute a test. I want to evaluate. I want to notify people. And the only thing you do from Jenkins is you say, Captain, please trigger that automation sequence that you showed earlier. And then Captain takes care of it, but not only executing these individual steps, like executing the test and doing the evaluation, but because of the event-driven system, there's multiple tools that can subscribe to these events. And some of these events also make it automatically to Dynatrace, thanks to the Captain Dynatrace integration. That means whatever automation sequence you specify in Captain not only executes these point tools like JMeter, Gatling, Locust, Helm, whatever it is, but it also sends events to Dynatrace so that Dynatrace is automatically cross-linked with every action that was executed, because this will, in the end, make it easier to navigate through the data and all that, right? It's all out of the box.
Definitely. Exactly. That's the idea, because we want that you make whatever pipeline you're using, because this is an event-driven. So as long as it can, and even if it cannot send REST, add it a curl, right? Because adding a curl with a token is everything that Captain needs. We're just sending this information to Captain, and Captain then, or cloud automation with Dynatrace built in, and say, hey, I just deployed new software. Please test it for me, right? And it's going to evaluate, and this is really, really accurate, because this pipeline, I just started and I just configured the whole environment in live, right? But I have already one running that I started yesterday. This is, yeah, this is from yesterday, right? So if I click here, and it's the same. Why? Because I'm using Monaco. Just the IPs and the hosts are different. This is a different environment. So if I open the bridge, I'll look at this data. Sorry, click run, the evaluation result. Look at this heat map. since Captain is so flexible, I'm adding as an image, because this is a demo environment, the problem pattern with the build number. So we can see deployment 0 is always passing, and all the other ones, right? So the pipeline or Captain nor Dynatrace has any idea what we're throwing at them. But with a proper SLI and SLO evaluation and with a proper load test, we can make sure that the software is not released, right? So if this were my pipeline, I know that build 22 or artifact 28, those are good to go in production, right? So because again, the idea is not that you deliver every day, but you have a branch that is load tested automatically and you could and can deliver whenever you want with the click on a button, right? And how this works for those that does not have seen, because Andy has, I don't know, I think like a gazillion of Sls and Slos webinars, but how this works, we're evaluating, or we even specify, hey, compare the last 3 past builds, right? So we're even excluding more fluctuations in the network or infrastructure, so we can even be more sure that this build is compared in a really good way with previous builds, right? So you see, if I click on this build, it selects the builds that passed the 3 past builds and is making all the evaluation on this metric. So not even the keenest eye will be able to notice how the milliseconds and the increase. And we see we don't accept more than 10% increase and the score, right? Which is the whole idea. Add mathematics and algorithms to your software in the evaluation, right? Based on the PurePath, which is there. So, and with this, I think I can start closing the episode, because in this episode is about understanding the value, right, of the quality gates and how to set it up. You have all the resources, because in episode 3 and episode 4 is about what happens if the build breaks, because it will break. It will say that the software is not good, right? And if you look at this, you see the error count, or even worse, the response time degradation, right? The system is slow, but why, right? So with Dynatrace, this is what we're gonna do in episode 3 and episode 4, understand exactly which code changed, right? So give you the tools so you can compare load test, 2 different load tests, and see what changed in the code. What change was in the code, because the PurePath, as I said before, you have sync, CPU, memory, threads information, so you can understand exactly you have a runtime problem, right? And this is what we're gonna do, because in 3 and 4, which is really, really good. So stay tuned for episode 3 and 4. And with this, Andy, I think I'm gonna give you the word for you.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So thank you so much, Sergio. And then it's great. I know you've done the whole thing as a hot day, hands-on training day at Perform, and now we're breaking it up into these 4 episodes. Now, you and I and a lot of others have shown and talked a lot about how Captain works, how everyone can run Captain, what we call the control plane, to automate sequences for delivery and operations. Now, while everyone can run their own Captain, either on their own Kubernetes cluster, or as you have shown with your Captain in a box on a micro Kubernetes on just a Linux machine, I have a tutorial using K3S, also very easy. But I know that a lot of our customers are asking, you know, Andy, while this is great, we don't want to run and maintain and manage and operate yet another piece of software if it seemed to be so close to what you guys are doing at Dynatrace. And this is why, and I've mentioned it in the past, we are offering cloud automation quality gates, which means part of the Dynatrace cloud automation solution that contains SLOs, release management, auto remediation. We're now bringing quality gate as a feature in, which technically it's powered by Captain. And right now we have a SaaS invite-only preview program, which means that if you want to explore Captain as a managed service, meaning the quality gates, everything that Sergio showed you, without you having to deal with installing and running Captain, then please ping me, give me a shout out. do me a favor, send me an email, or you have my name, my first name dot last name at dynatrace.com. So andreas.graben@dynatrace.com. Requirement is that you have an automated pipeline that is deploying, running some tests, and then you can integrate the quality gates to really validate if all this works. Obviously, Dynatrace needs to monitor this environment. We want to get feedback right now in this early preview before we put this GA. Now, there's another question here. Is it possible to use Captain with Azure Devops? Yes, it is. We have an Azure Devops extension already where you can trigger.
I actually have one running right now.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, then let me show it. Yeah.
This is the same in Azure Devops, right? And in here we have build artifacts, and because actually I deliver perform with Azure Devops, right? But since I'm delivering all the sources, and a lot of customers use Jenkins, but this is the same with Azure Devops, right? But I'm using the Git repository of Azure Devops, right? The logic of the simulation is a bit different. So I'm compiling every hour, right? It's not on a Git commit, but it's on a cron job. So we're doing a release for each build, right? So here is the releases, and the release. Actually, you can, this should be public. So I'm gonna copy this and put it on the chat. I hope this, because this link is public, so you should be able to see. Here are the releases. So actually, if I click on the releases, there you see. And in the releases, we have a release pipeline. We have a build pipeline and a release pipeline, and you can see staging succeeds. Every 6 releases, 1 succeeds. Why? Because it's deployment 0. Deployment 0 succeeds, and the others not. And we have in Azure DevOps, they're calling it pre-approval or something. So I can approve and say, hey, now I want to approve, because as I said before, it's not that you should deliver every day on every commit, but it's the ability to deliver with confidence, right? So now I can say, deliver this software with confidence, and I approve it, and we continue the delivery pipeline, right? And inside my pipeline, here is the Captain integration, where we send the event, right? And the performance test is here, and everything is bound also with the Captain in the box installation, right?
Very cool. So, and just to answer, to continue this, the answer, this works for any tool that you have. Remember, what Captain does, Captain allows you to say, I want to automate these 2, 3, 4, 5 steps. Monaco, testing, evaluation, notifications. Captain automates that for you, and you trigger it through an API call. That means you can trigger it from Jenkins, from Azure DevOps, from GitLab, from any other tool. And the nice thing is,
even from Slack, if you want.
Even from Slack, yeah, we have a Slack integration with a chatbot. You can just trigger a Captain automation sequence. Yeah, very easily.
With Slack, exactly. Yeah. Really, really cool.
Yeah. The point is, why we have invested in all of this is because we know a lot of you have to build automation. You have to build automation around automating your tests, your quality gates, your notifications, your blue-green deployments, your canary deployments, your chaos engineering, your security tests. And yes, you can build this all in your tools, in the languages that these tools provide, whether it's a Jenkins, the Groovy, whether you can build extensions to Azure DevOps and do a lot of coding, probably in .NET or in other scripting languages. If all of us would do the same thing, then we are wasting our time, I think. And this is why we said, we want to build something that automates tasks that we all know need to be automated. We want to take away the pain of building this automation, and of especially building integrations with all of these different tools. And that's why we're working with the CDF, the Continuous Delivery Foundation, to standardize on all the eventing that we've built into Captain. This is also why Captain is an open source project as part of CNCF. And we know that a lot of you out there are working for large enterprises that love open source, but also want to have the security that there's somebody behind it that supports it and operates for you. This is why we're also offering the capabilities from Captain as part of the Dynatrace Cloud Automation solution, starting with quality gates. And this is what I mentioned again. If you have interest, if you want to explore this capability, send me an email. I will return some information on what this preview programs includes, and then maybe I'll see you on the preview.
Exactly. And if that's not enough, all the automation we're building in Keptn, we also are automating how to even install Keptn. You can have Keptn on keys, Keptn on micro Kubernetes, the same that we have. So it's really crazy easy for you to get started. I can see the history, and this is what I have done. Sudo, run the shell script, and that's it, right? I log in again to reload the shell. Why? Because now I have a full-blown Kubernetes cluster, right? Where I can navigate through all my namespaces and all the services. We can see Keptn here installed, Dynatrace, Git, Jenkins, right? So everything is there, so you can start building and learning, right? And it's configured in a way that I can even connect to the instances from the outside. So all the Keptn in a box installation, I use K9S, so I can manage them in a really nice, easy way, like butter. You can navigate through all your namespace and say, hey, what is happening on Keptn? And I can navigate on the services, the JMeter service, doing the load test and all that, right? Really, really trying to make it as easy as possible for our YouTube developers out there. Yeah.
Cool. All right, Sergio. Muchas gracias, señor.
A ti.
I know I will see you back in episode number 3, which is already scheduled, and then episode number 4 as well. They're all coming. So if anybody's interested, check out the next episodes.
This here. Episode 3, guys, is what we have built. Episode 2 is a lot of knowledge, but it's important to understand what is running on the back. Episode 3 and 4 is totally hands-on and understand how to analyze load test in Dynatrace, right? How to analyze all these tests that we're continuously triggering with the quality gate, and we're gonna compare them, right? And decompile the source code to understand exactly what changed and what was the problem, right? So really, really cool features, and we're gonna compare two. And episode 4, the same, some runtime optimization, find memory allocation issues, CPU analysis, and thread analysis for load testing.
Cool. All right. Then thanks again. The recording will be up soon on YouTube, and it will be up soon on Dynatrace University. I know you're then going to link the recording with your CodeLab, and yeah, stay tuned, stay healthy.
Yes.
And for those of us who are finally able to walk outside in bars and restaurants, because I know, Sergio, in our parts of the world, at least in Austria here, they lifted some of the restrictions yesterday. How about you? Can you go out to big gardens now?
Munich is still a bit restricted.
Okay.
Yeah. But after tomorrow in Austria and in Italy, they're opening.
Yeah. The waters.
So I might go for the weekend a bit to Italy, to the north of Italy.
Yeah.
Which is not far away from Munich. So yeah. Go have an Italian beer.
Exactly. Yeah, coming
well,
from
the beer gardens are open in Munich, but you need to have a test.
I know, it's the same here. It's the same. It's the same here. Yeah. Okay.
But well,
Sergio,
it's a start.
It's the top of the hour. I will say goodbye to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.